Hey everybody, Dr. Sean here with another health optimizing video. Just back from the Hard to Kill Summit. What a great conference. It was in Omaha, Nebraska, put on by Dr. Fit and Fabulous. If you don't know her, give her a follow on, she's definitely on Instagram. I'm not sure if she's on YouTube, but she's really awesome. Boy, did she put on a quality conference. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And I want to share with you some content that I got from that particular conference. A lot of inspiration came from there. Found out that, boy, there's a lot of women interested in women's health, and we got to do a better job in healthcare taking care of women. But hang tight from this video, because if you're a guy, you're going to benefit from it, because in this video, I'm going to be talking about overactive bladder and the concepts that help women with an overactive bladder. That means leaky urine, i.e., urine coming out when you don't want it to come out. You need to stick with this video to understand whether you're a man or a woman, because basically the same concepts and strategies to get rid of it are relevant to both sexes, okay? So let's get into it. In this particular image right here, this is a client who struggles with the overactive bladder. I didn't even know that. Do you know, a lot of women don't want to talk about it, particularly to a male provider. So I didn't know that was a particular issue. Maybe I have to start asking clients, female clients, this directly. But I found out about it because they have a ladies group, and my clients have, I have a lot of client groups because I have a lot of clients now, and they have a ladies group. They like to talk about stuff without us fellows around, but my wife's in there, and so is my daughter. And so they were talking about this issue because women struggle in private with this, okay? And you shouldn't. You should talk to your doctor about it, but I got some ideas that you're not going to hear from your doctor. Dr. Fit and Fabulous, I think she would be telling you about this too. So, but nonetheless, you want to pay attention. Watch this video. I'm going to get into a couple types of fat that are really important. One is bad and causes this. Another one is good and helps to prevent this from happening. All right. So, overactive bladder, leaky urine. You may not have leaky urine all the time. Maybe it's just first signs of it is when you sneeze or when you cough. Or when you're playing sports, or when you're having sex and you have a little bit of urine leak out and you don't want to have. That's a wake-up call that you are likely going to develop an even more overactive bladder, and it's time to intervene with some lifestyle changes so that doesn't happen, okay? So we're going to get into that, the two different types of fats. We're going to cover a novel protein and hormone that was discovered in 1990, so it's still relatively new. And we need to do more research on this. You know who's doing research on it? Big Pharma. You know who doesn't want you to know about this particular protein and hormone? Big Pharma. But you should know about it, and you can even do a blood test to see how much of it is in your blood. But we're going to get into where it comes from, what you got to do to get more of it, and other important things in this video that's pertinent to really your whole lifestyle. But we're talking leaky urine right now. Let's go ahead and get into it. So this particular client is in her 40s, and she had had a heart attack 3 weeks before she came to see me. And why? Because of all this visceral fat. And guess what is the culprit behind overactive bladder? And it's visceral fat. So we're going to get into that particular issue. You can screenshot this study so you can see and read about the details in it. So okay, some people want to look at the citation. Now you have the citation for it, and that's important for extra details. But I'm just going to give you the highlights of that study. So the more visceral fat you have, the more likely you're going to have overactive bladder, and the more subcutaneous fat you have, the less likely you are to have it. So there's this inverse relationship, inverse association between subcutaneous fat and overactive bladder or leaky urine. So you want to have subcutaneous fat, but not all subcutaneous fat is the same. You know, there are two different types of subcutaneous fat that you want to have. So my particular client didn't have a lot of subcutaneous fat. They had mostly visceral fat, and that's the worst thing to have. You have less subcutaneous fat and more visceral fat. You want to have just the opposite. You want more subcutaneous fat, and in particular, a type of fat called superficial subcutaneous fat. I'm going to show you exactly where that is. and less visceral fat. So we covered that study. Now let's look at those different fat depots, okay? All the other doctors, they won't even know. You go ask them about visceral fat. They probably can't even, they couldn't even point to it on an MRI scan or a CT scan. Or superficial subcutaneous fat, deep subcutaneous fat. They won't know that either. But if you're following Dr. Sean, you're subscribing here, you're going to know about it. All right, so subcutaneous fat is this stuff out here. You probably already know that if you're my follower. This is visceral fat. So on a MRI scan, fat is white, and you want to be more dark. Muscle is dark, and you want to be less white. So this person has kind of the inverse relationship with it, and their subcutaneous fat is elevated, but the good stuff is superficial subcutaneous fat. It's this little bit right here. How do I know? Because see this black line? This stuff is so important. Nature divides superficial subcutaneous fat from deep subcutaneous fat with this black line. It's called the scarpa fascia. It's really not important, but it's a membrane, and it's there, and it's real. It's like bricks and clouds, difference between these two fats. This is good, this is bad. This secretes an awesome stuff, wonderful molecule called, that's a protein and a hormone called adiponectin. Really, really good stuff. This stuff secretes inflammatory stuff that's really, really bad stuff and causes disease, and it actually functions a lot like visceral fat. So bricks and clouds right next to each other, but divided by that membrane, you better know about it because you want to tell the difference, okay? You want to promote what increases out of this superficial subcutaneous fat so you can have more of this adiponectin, and what decreases that. All right, so there is a negative correlation between this superficial subcutaneous fat and an overactive bladder. So the more superficial subcutaneous fat decreases your overactive bladder, and it's just the opposite for visceral fat. More of that is directly aligned and associated with more overactive bladder or leaky urine. This stuff here is also negatively or it contributes to overactive bladder. So it's not all subcutaneous fat. You want this stuff, but not this stuff, and not that stuff, okay? So summing that up, superficial subcutaneous fat, muy bueno, good stuff. It secretes adiponectin. The other two types of fat, deep subcutaneous fat and visceral fat, secretes bad stuff, inflammatory stuff that contribute to cause disease. All right, so we're going to get into a particular study. This is, by the way, a really good MRI. How do you want to look like this? This is a friend of mine from the Army National Guard. Lots of dark, very little white. So Gabe has a great abdomen. He has that oval shape, and that's what you want to look like. Very little visceral fat, and just a thin layer of subcutaneous fat like Gabe has. All right, so here's a study. We're going to be talking about adiponectin, cover it real fast. That's it, so you can screenshot it and read more if you want. Dr. Sean's out of the way. Now I'm going to get back, and let's cover this particular image so you can understand adiponectin and its and what exactly it does. So adiponectin comes from superficial subcutaneous fat, and it is important because it has anti-diabetic qualities to it. So it helps reduce diabetes, particularly type 2 diabetes, helps reduce hypertension or high blood pressure, so it helps to lower your blood pressure. It is also anti-atherogenic. That's a medical term for atherogenesis, means clogged arteries. Okay, so you do not want to have clogged arteries because that leads to heart attack and strokes, and among other things. And for your fellas, erectile dysfunction. So bad blood flow. It goes all over your body. You got atherogenesis, you're just not getting blood flow to really anything. So all your organs suffer, including your biggest organ that you have in your body, which is your skin. So big role in decreasing your skin from all this inflammation, from atherogenesis, and of course, big origin for visceral fat. So besides that, adiponectin is also anti-inflammatory, so it decreases inflammation throughout the body. It decreases metabolic syndrome, so it's important for helping to reverse metabolic syndrome, and it helps to decrease obesity. So Adiponectin is just really good stuff. If you're overweight, if you're obese, you want more adiponectin coming from your superficial subcutaneous fat and your skeletal muscles. So that's why a lot of people who work out, exercise, build up muscles help to correct their obesity. It's very beneficial. Exercise, healthy skeletal muscles are incredibly beneficial activity. But some of the worst at understanding these different types of fat in deep in the abdomen, and the type of subcutaneous fat that you should be having are bodybuilders. They should pay more attention to it. They're just destroying their superficial subcutaneous fat, wanting extremely low levels of superficial subcutaneous fat, and they'd really benefit from having an MRI. But I haven't yet to have a single bodybuilder come forward and be a client. No, none of them want to do it. It's they want to build muscle, but nobody seems to be interested in being a client and finding out and getting an MRI. So you can get MRI on your own. If I have how to do that in some other videos, but yeah, it's best to come work with me and we'll study it together and figure out how to do that. All right, so adiponectin is really, really important also to help maintain your muscle cells. So it comes from muscle cells, but it also has a feedback. It's got this hormonal effect that improves tissue throughout the body, and it improves particularly endothelial cells. So endothelial cells are the cells that line your arteries and veins and capillaries and your epithelial cells. So this adiponectin actually improves the quality of your skin. So during the Renaissance period, when art was being done, sculptures and paintings, the masters would like to sculpt and paint women that were kind of cherubic, a little bit heavy, because they had more superficial subcutaneous fat, and they had pretty faces, very effeminate, very beautiful skin, because of that adiponectin that was available to them during that particular period of time. Here's something I've noticed. A lot of women who have very, very superficial, very, very small amounts of subcutaneous fat don't have really great skin, really, really nice, pretty effeminate faces. They tend to have kind of, more tough-looking faces and stuff. So, again, a little thin layer of subcutaneous fat would do their skin some good, and their overall health is protected. And I think that's why we find a mixed picture when it comes to bodybuilders and health long-term down the road. So I agree that bodybuilding is healthy, but there's Goldilocks to it. Too much muscle and too little fat, and you got a real serious health issue that they're not even tracking. All right, so what do you got to do to get rid of this visceral fat and help to improve adiponectin? You want to be optimally healthy. So how do you want to be optimally healthy? Follow my strategies. These are strategies designed to reduce visceral fat, optimize your microbiome, optimize your health. So you're going to want to screen shoot that. And if you're really interested in working on this, the most efficient way is to consider being a client of me. So I am now doing this full time, and I'm available to work with individuals that are very motivated. You have to be willing to come to me in Minnesota. 2 reasons. 1, I am a licensed physician in Minnesota, so I can't take care of you across state line legally. And then secondly, Dr. Sean uses sort of a litmus test, because if you're not willing to come to me in Minnesota, then health is not that important to you. So we're probably not a good fit to be working with each other on. If you like, however, wanting to optimize yourself and you're very motivated, you can go to my website, www.drseanomara.com, and you can learn more about working with me and becoming a client. And as always, if you like this video, give it a like, because that will help my ratings so I get this content out to other people. And also, so you can potentially share it with other people. You can subscribe to this. You can forward this video. If you know a woman who's struggling with overactive bladder, or a male who's struggling with leaky urine as well, you can share this content with them. It will be very beneficial. And I will get into some other videos for males too about this issue in the future. But today I want to get this out to address the lack of attention to visceral fat and the connection between the different types of fat and women's health issues. All right, well, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to share this. As always, you can give comments and ask questions. I like to engage with my followers. And so feel free to leave comments. I'll answer as many as I can get to. And we will see you on another health optimizing video. Dr. Sean out.